I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and give you a different view than you might get from commercials and mainstream media. So today I want to teach you about golden nutrients for your golden years is what we could call it. Linda asked me that she gets questions a lot regarding what are the supplements I need to take as I'm getting wiser, we'll say. I think, is it elderly that offends you when I say
older adult, we prefer.
Older adult? Okay. As you're becoming an older, wiser adult, what do you need to continue to support that brain and the rest of the body so that you can succeed and live here as long as possible? So we're going to get into that today. And if I forget, remind me to help you understand supplements and being able to tell what's a good product versus what's a poor product and all of that. So I didn't put that in here, but that's something that's usually comes up and we usually cover anyway. So let's dive in. So this is I broke this up into a couple parts. The first here, if you couldn't tell by all the memberships and stuff she read, I'm just a nerd who likes to stay up on the research and the cutting edge information. And so I'm really excited because one study I'm going to share with you is literally just published like a month ago on this topic for us. So it's hot off the presses, published in the most well-respected journal in the world called the journal Nature, and specifically the Nature Aging Journal, and we're going to dive into that. So what they were looking at was evidence-based strategies for slowing biological aging. And so before we dive in, you have to understand there's two kinds of aging. There's chronological aging, which is how many birthdays have you had? And there's biological aging, which is what's the age of your actual biology. Okay, and those don't have to be the same thing. You could have a biological age that's 40 and had 60 birthdays, right? Or you could have had 60 birthdays and have a biological age that's 80. All right, we've all seen those people. I had a consultation with a lady recently that I'm sitting in front of her and I'm looking at my info on her, and it says she's 38 years old and she looks like she's 55. And then we've also seen, I was talking to Linda before we got started, and my dad passed away in December, but he was 6 days from his 70th, but he looked like he was much younger. So there's the chronological age, there's the biological age. In terms of our health span, which is your quality of life in the years that you have, the biological age is the one that we're really focused on, and that's the one that we want to have the biggest discrepancy between our birthdays and biological age, preferably to the low side. All right, so this new paper that we'll get to in a minute is looking at how can we slow biological aging. Is it possible, and if so, how? And if we can slow that, then we're increasing our health span or the quality of life that we have in our years. And the paper, we'll get into it, but we can slow or turn back our epigenetic clocks. And so everyone's heard of genetics before, right? Mm-hmm. It gets blamed for everything, all right? It's not the reason for everything. It's usually not the reason for most things. Genetics is if you have the gene for a certain disease like cystic fibrosis, or Down syndrome, you're going to have the disease. That would be a genetic cause. That's 2.5% of all diseases. Okay, so most diseases are not genetic. Most diseases are what are called epigenetic, and epi is control from above. Okay, so that's things like lifestyle, our choices, environment. Okay, and a great example of this is the BRCA gene for breast cancer. There's hundreds of thousands of men and women with the BRCA gene positive, and if that were a genetic disease, all of those people would develop breast cancer. That's not what we see. Okay, some do, some don't. So then the question is, well, why do the ones who do, and why do the ones who don't? That's the epigenetics, or this controls the expression. Okay, so think about that BRCA gene as a light switch in the off position. If we have epigenetic input like smoking, high stress, alcohol, trauma, living next to the Duke nuclear power plant, whatever you're doing, that might turn that gene on. Okay? If that occurs, that person might express breast cancer. So epigenetics is what we're really interested in, and the cool thing about that is the choices matter. So we can be responsible, but a lot of Americans don't like also being accountable. But if we choose wrong, we might develop type 2 diabetes, but because we chose into that, we could also choose back out of it, potentially, given the limitations of matter and all of that. So if things were genetic, there's nothing you can do, so pharmaceutical companies thrive. Hey, there's nothing you can do, take this drug to palliate your symptoms until you die. If it's epigenetic, we have a lot of control and there's hope that way. Genetics, there's no hope, okay? So the good news is genetics isn't how most things work. So before we get into this brand new study, let's go back. I don't know why this is doing that. But let's go back to 2009 here. All right, 2009. This is the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and this was a study looking at multivitamin use and telomere length in women. Okay, so men, they left us out of it, but we'll see that it matters for us too. Does anyone know what a telomere is? Huh?
It's related to your chromosome. It's the end of the chromosome.
Yes, good. It's the end of your chromosome. So the metaphor, the analogy would be, you have your shoelaces, right? The shoelace represents your DNA. Okay, if we took your chromosome and instead of pulled it out, stretched it out, it would look like a shoelace. And the telomere is the tape or the cap on the end of your shoelace. And with every cell division throughout our life, that telomere gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And once you have no more tape, you're done. Okay? So if we can figure out, if you can figure out how to slow the removal of the tape, right, then we can slow our biological aging. We can live longer and healthier. And that's what this paper was looking at, was does multivitamin use impact telomere length positively in women? This is way back in 2009, which scientifically is a long time ago. Okay?
Yeah.
So, the authors state, telomere length may be a marker of biological aging. Multivitamin supplements represent a major source of micronutrients, which may affect telomere length by modulating oxidative stress, which you take antioxidants to fight oxidative stress. So think of oxidative stress as rust. Okay, if you have a truck out there with a steel bumper, if it oxidizes, it rusts. So in our bodies, if we have lots of oxidative stress, we're rusting, we're aging faster. Okay, and then inflammation is inflammation or fire would be the metaphor. So if we can do multivitamins affect telomere length by slowing down the rusting and the inflammation of them. So they examined that in women, and they looked at 586 women aged 35 to 74, and they gave them multivitamins, and so they found multivitamin use was associated with longer telomeres. So if you take multivitamins, your shoelaces will last longer. That's what they're saying, okay? Compared to non-users, people who didn't take multivitamins, the relative telomere length of white blood cell DNA was an average 5% longer for the vitamin users, the multivitamin users. Okay, and white blood cells, we need to have good, healthy white blood cells, right, to fight off cancer, not be too inflamed, all of those things. So, what's a cheap way to promote slower aging? It appears, here's one study saying multivitamin use. In the analysis of the micronutrients in the multivitamin, higher intakes of vitamin C and vitamin E were each associated with longer telomeres, even after adjusting for the multivitamin. Furthermore, intakes of both nutrients were associated with telomere length in women. So, in conclusion, this is the first evidence that multivitamin use is associated with longer telomere length. So, since 2009, we have evidence that we should be taking multivitamins. I would add quality before that word multivitamin to promote better aging, slower aging. So now, this is the paper that was published February 3rd, 2025. So you can't get much hotter off the press than that. We're just a month out from there. And again, this was in the journal Nature, which is the most highly rated scientific research journal in the world. And this paper is titled Individual and Additive Effects of Vitamin D, Omega-3s, and Exercise on DNA Methylation of Biological Aging in Older Adults. So they didn't even offend you in the title. That's good stuff. All right, so they're looking at how do these strategies, do they slow DNA methylation, which would slow biological aging? And so this,
Make
that,
bigger.
what's
Can you
that?
Make that bigger, we can't.
I can't, but I can share the slides with Linda and she can send them out if that's okay. But what this says is this paper looked at 777 adults, 70 plus, okay? And they wanted to know, how do vitamin D, omega-3s, and a home exercise program individually or in combination impact biological aging? And the home exercise program they called SHEP, S-H-E-P, which was simple home exercise program. Okay, so you don't have to be a CrossFitter, all right? And so they did this over 3 years, and they wanted to know, do the individual things slow biological age, and in combination, do they have synergy to slow biological age even further? So it was 777 generally healthy, active adults aged 70 and older from 5 different countries in Europe. They tested the effects of vitamin D at 2,000 IUs a day. Okay, I would argue that that's a subtherapeutic dose. It's not enough, but at least it's in the research. Okay, we would do better. Okay, omega-3s at 1 gram per day, definitely not enough, but more than most people get, because omega-3s are called essential fatty acids. That word essential means we can't make them in our body. So unless you're eating them or supplementing them, you're not getting them. Okay, so 1 gram a day is better than nothing, but not enough for health, optimal health, I would say. And then the SHEP, the simple home exercise program, was three bouts of 30 minutes per week. Who can do that? All the hands. All the hands, right? All right, so they did this for 3 years. And they did yearly examinations, and they did telephone calls every 3 months, and blood was taken at 0 days, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. And they're looking at their DNA to say, how is the DNA being impacted by all this? Will you read that for me? Okay. So one thing they found, daily omega-3 supplementation reduced age acceleration or pace of aging. So omega-3s by themselves, slowing biological aging. How much? We'll get there in a second. Okay. The effects of omega-3s, this kills me right here. The effects of omega-3 supplementation were somewhat larger for individuals who had a baseline vitamin D greater than 20 nanograms per milliliter. Okay, so why does that kill me? Well, because if you go have your vitamin D tested by LabCorp, the normal range off to the right side of the page will say 30 to 100. Okay, so they're saying if you had more than 20, you did better. Well, 20 is 10 points lower than deficient, right? So again, the standards are crap in the research, but at least it's here, and we're still seeing benefits. So what if we're actually shooting for optimal things, which functional medicine does? Okay, optimal is above 50 for vitamin D. Most people should be around 70, okay? So hey, if people were less deficient than terrible, the omega-3 functioned better. What if we got their D optimal and their 3 optimal even better, okay? So omega-3 alone reduced the rate of infections 13% and the rate of falls 10%. What kills older adults? Falls and infections and cancer. And a lot of infections are precursors to cancer. So if one thing can reduce your fall risk 10% and your infection 13%, wouldn't that be good to know? And what if it has no side effects? Wouldn't that be good to know? And what if it's pretty cheap? Wouldn't that be good to know? Okay, that's omega-3s. All right? All 3 interventions combined showed a significant additive benefit by reducing pre-frailty by 39% and reducing cancer by 61% over 3 years.
I have just a question going back to what you said about vitamin D.
Uh-huh.
And that this study is showing people in the 20% range.
Yeah.
Deficient, are most people deficient in vitamin D?
Yes. So 70% of Americans per CDC data are insufficient with vitamin D. Clinically, I test vitamin D all the time, and deficient, most people are not deficient below the 30, but most people are like 34. Like they're below 40. So that'd be called functionally low in my world. which is suboptimal but not lab low yet. But it's right there hugging it. And if you have that run at your PCP and you're 34, they say your D's good, keep going. And it's like, no, that is not a good level.
It's typically a lot of people of color are low.
Yeah. So the darker the skin, the worse vitamin D level. And the reason for that is we get vitamin D from the sun, specifically the UVB rays, which they scare you about causing skin cancer, right? So even if you're not dark skinned, if you're light skinned and you're putting on sunscreen and all that and not getting UVB, you're promoting cancer because you're not getting your vitamin D, okay? So the UVB ray hits our skin. In our skin, there's a thing called 7-dehydrocholesterol. If UVB hits that, it turns into vitamin D. If UVB does not hit that, it turns into cholesterol. So avoiding sun is actually raising your cholesterol, maybe to the level that now your doctor who doesn't know anything about cholesterol says you need a statin, and now you have a 30-page side effect list from statins, and you're off to the races. So D, omegas, 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a week, you're reducing cancer 61% over 3 years. Pretty important and almost free, okay? Massive, like this should be being shouted from the rooftops, but all we see is commercials for the yearly flu vaccine, right? All right, so keeping going here. The blue box is a lot of stuff I won't hurt your brain with, but it's talking about the 61% is we're seeing this on the human level, less cancer. The blue box is saying molecularly, down inside your cells, it's changing genetic expression, and that's why we see the less cancer, the less falls, the less infections, that sort of thing. Okay, so I want to jump to a different study inside this study because they're looking at how can we slow biological aging. So those 3 things, the exercise, the D, the omegas are one. Then recently another study was published called the calorie study, and that was looking at caloric restriction and how does that impact aging. Okay, so caloric restriction is eating less calories but not skimping on the nutrients. So you're getting the same nutrient levels we want you to get for health, but you're doing it with less calories. Does that make sense? Versus eating only 500 calories a day to lose weight, but you're not really healthy. And once you stop, you gain your weight back. Okay? So this is looking at caloric restriction, so healthy way to lose weight, and does that lower aging? And that reduced aging rate by 3%. Okay, so every 3% counts in my opinion. So, what did we see? Over the 3 years, doing the omega-3s, D, and exercise, slowed biological aging 3 to 4 months. Okay, which you're like, yeah, big deal. If I live 3 or 4 months longer, not really important. Well, to your loved ones it is. Okay, and if you have good health span, if you're still healthy, 3 to 4 months more of healthy life is significant. Also, this was only over 3 years. What if you do it over 50 years, 70 years, right? So now that might, we don't know yet, because we don't have the research over that time period, but my suspicion is that window would just widen for us, right? And we all, like Jack LaLanne, he's kind of an example of what we'll probably find if they run these studies over the long term. So starting today, you start stacking days and you start slowing that clock. There is currently no standard measure of no gold standard measure of biological aging. So this is an early research field. Longevity is all the rage right now if you're reading blogs and things. So more of this is going to come out, but we have to start somewhere. This is a great start. The author said our estimates of treatment effects are conservative. So that 3 to 4 months is a conservative. They took the low number on how good was it. Okay, so maybe it was 6 to 8 months. Who knows? But again, all we need is here's the precedent that it works in 70-year-olds. Okay, so what if we started when we were 40 or 50? We're probably starting at a healthier spot, hopefully, than a 70-year-old. So again, maybe we get more out of it. Vitamin D by itself decreased death from all causes, risk of death from all causes by 3 to 6%. Okay, so we can get 3 to 6% from D, 3% from caloric restriction, more percent from omega-3s, right? So all of this adds up. So that is a groundbreaking study that's massively important for us.
Is that D3?
Yep. D3 is the biologically active one, so that's what you want.
Can you go over the sunscreen and cholesterol thing again?
Yeah, so I have a whole video walking you through it on YouTube. I have over 1,200 videos on YouTube, so if you're interested or can't sleep, go on YouTube and search my name. But basically, you have, the sun makes UVB and UVA, okay? UVA drives vasodilation, which is widening of blood vessels. So if you've got blood pressure issues, don't avoid the sun, okay? UVB is what's driving the vitamin D production. And so again, it hits our skin. In our skin, there's a thing called 7-dehydrocholesterol, and that's the fork in the road. If that's hit by UVB, it becomes vitamin D. If it's not being hit by vitamin D, it becomes total cholesterol. So the sun impacts your cholesterol levels, and they've done plenty of studies of this. The farther you are from the equator, the lower your vitamin D, the higher your cholesterol, and the higher your MS risk too, by the way.
How much sunlight do you need to do that? Yeah, it's not hours and hours.
As much, no, but, well, any time the sun's hitting you, it's doing it.
So if
right,
you're just
so-
outside for 10, 15 minutes a day, like running in and out.
I mean, the more the better. Unless you're naked at the equator 24/7, you're not going to get enough D from the sun, but you want to get as much as you can. So then the question is, well, is all sun good? And the answer to that is no. Okay, and I have a video on this too. So there is cancer-causing sun, and the cancer-causing sun is the direct overhead sun. So the easy hack, if you're like, hey, I need some sun, should I go expose myself right now or not, is look down at your shadow, and if your shadow's longer than you are tall, that is healthy sun. If your shadow's shorter than you, that's unhealthy sun.
Like noon
Yeah, so basically 11 to 3, depending on where you are on the planet. Yeah. So just look at your shadow, okay? So morning sun is actually what's called preparatory sun. So that's that when you're gaining that and your shadow's long because the sun's rising, right? That's building you up and preparing you to be able to better resist the bad sun at noon. But if you look at historical cultures, they take a siesta in the middle of the day, get in the shade, get out of the sun. Like they knew without knowing, right? And then the dusk sun is reparatory or repair sun. So now you eat and you go walk your dog as the sun's setting. Again, your shadow is going to be real long.
But does
And-
that sun help with your vitamin
Yeah,
D?
yeah. Yeah, so those are the healthy times. And again, where you are in the world is different. I've played with it out on my deck a little bit, and it's kind of like by 11 here, you're getting into the bad sun. It's like 11 to 3 or 4, depending on time of the year. Okay.
Years ago, I had an app on my phone
Yeah, there's apps.
that
Yeah,
tracked my location.
it's kind of like the ozone app. There's a vitamin D
Yeah.
exposure app too.
It would
Yeah.
tell you how long for that particular day, to
Yep.
see the sun,
Yep.
when to turn over.
Yeah. There's an app for everything now, right? So great questions. Okay, so we'll move on to a different study here, and of course, health span implicates cognitive function, right? If we're going to have a good, long quality of life, we need to have our brain for as long as possible. Dementia is number 7 leading killer right now, and gaining. They're saying by 2050 it might bankrupt the planet. So we need to, if type 2 diabetes doesn't do it first, each thing is, whatever. So we need a good, healthy brain. And so to do that, recently there was a study to look at, does a multivitamin preserve cognition and memory? And so in your brain you have a part called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is the part that is short-term memory. The hippocampus is what degenerates in dementia, Alzheimer's, the various types of dementia. So preserving the hippocampus preserves cognitive function, short-term memory, recognizing faces and names and remembering phone numbers and your address and all that stuff. So this American Journal of Clinical Nutrition is a great journal. They did the telomere study earlier. This was one from last year where they looked at multivitamin supplementation in older adults. And so the title tells you it improves memory. Okay, but we want to know more than just the title. So maintenance of cognition is of critical importance to older adults and really to any living human. Yet few effective strategies to slow cognitive decline currently exist. Right? There's no drug that slows cognitive decline. Once you've got mild cognitive impairment into dementia, they're just giving you things to help with symptoms. They're not telling you, hey, we're going to slow it. They're saying this is a progressively neurodegenerative disease. So the whole approach is there's nothing we can do to slow it.
Well, what about the FDA? They just approved drugs to treat Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you're saying they really don't do anything?
Not to slow it down or reverse it.
So what's the purpose of the drugs that they're
Symptoms.
rolling out for Alzheimer's?
Symptoms. And shareholders.
Money.
Yeah.
Money.
It's illegal for a corporation to do something against the interest of the shareholders. It's not about creating health, it's about making money. Okay? So, this study took 3,500 older adults and took them through a battery of neuropsychological tests for 3 years. All right? They looked at episodic memory, immediate recall memory, new object recognition, and executive function over 3 years. So all things we need to be independent humans and get around and live our lives. Compared with placebo, participants who took multivitamins had significantly better immediate recall at the 1 year point, as well as across 3 years, they had it as well. Okay? The effect of the multivitamin intervention improved memory performance above placebo by the equivalent of 3.1 years of age-related memory change. So in English, that says the people who took the multivitamin, their brain aged 3 years slower than the people who didn't. Okay, so that 3 years is massively significant. If anyone's had a family member or loved one with dementia, you know, if we could delay them forgetting us for 3 more years, that's better for everybody. Okay? And you can with a simple multivitamin. And the kicker is, the authors even say, vitamin supplementation is relatively inexpensive. That's why the pharmaceutical companies aren't screaming it from the rooftop for you. Accessible, few adverse events, and thus might be a potentially useful population health intervention. Might be. It's like, really? Show me a drug that slows cognitive decline by 3 years and you'd be blasting that everywhere. Okay? You just blasted a COVID vaccine for 4 years and it's not done anything you said it did, right? But a multivitamin will do it for basically free and you don't tell anybody, okay? So basically, in this study, guess what they used? Centrum Silver. Thank you, even you guys know. The worst multivitamin you could possibly take, all right?
Wow.
My sister's a nurse. They call Centrum Silver bedpan bullets in the hospital because it comes out and tinks against the bedpan just like it went in. Okay? So even with the worst thing you could take, it slowed brain degeneration 3 years. So if you take a good one, I mean, it's probably exponentially better.
Are you going to have some sort of leave behind for recommendation?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a website. Yeah.
What's a good multivitamin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would I do that to you? I'm gonna be like, oh, see ya. Take your Flintstones. Yeah.
Well, my primary doctor told me to stop using it.
Yeah, they know nothing about nutrition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know more about it.
exactly. So listen, for example, B vitamins are water soluble. Okay, that means you pee them out if you don't use them. So you take a B vitamin, it peaks in the blood 1 hour after you take it, and then you spill it. Okay? So if you take your multivitamin and you go get your yearly labs, and they don't test a lot of nutritional markers, but they will run the serum B12 fairly often. If that's lab high, your GP says stop taking it, you're too high.
Because you just took it.
And it's like, hey, you don't know anything about nutrition, okay? So yes, it's going to be high if you're taking it, but you spill it. So later in the day, you pee, and your pee's neon yellow or neon green. That's the B vitamins that you didn't use, okay? And that's why a good quality multivitamin you have to take multiple times through the day because we're dripping your B vitamins to you throughout the day. If you only took it in the morning and at 4 p.m. your body needs Bs, well, you already spilled that before lunchtime, okay? So the good one you take with each meal so that you're basically, it peaks at the hour drops. Later in the day you eat it, peaks for the hour drops. So when you need it, it's there, okay? So Centrum, crap, you all knew that, that's good, okay? But if you look, here's a hack for understanding a good multivitamin, and I have videos on this too. But So if you go look at, well, easier than that. The label will say what's in it. Here's B6, B12, blah, blah, blah. Underneath the label, it says other ingredients. Okay? If you see anything in there that says a color and a number, don't buy that. Okay? Red 40, yellow 5, blue lake, all these weird things. Like, what the heck is that? Okay? If you see anything that says modified, glaze or something like that, you don't want that. If it has sucralose or aspartame, those are neurotoxins. You don't want that. If you go up into the label that says B12, okay, it'll say B12, and then right next to it in parentheses, it'll say something cobalamin. Okay, cobalamin is actually B12. The prefix before it tells you the quality. The Centrums and the Nature's Made and the Harris Teeter vitamins and the Walmart vitamins, all those, they're going to say cyanocobalamin. Cyanide, okay? That's what you're metabolizing that into. Okay, not helping you. The folate, it's just B9. The parentheses will say folic acid. That's trash. You want it to say folinic acid or methylfolate. Okay, so those are the two easy cheats to say, is this a good quality multi? If they're not using good quality Bs, which are very inexpensive, they're not interested in your health. They're interested in having something on the shelf, and those are made by pharmaceutical companies most of the time. In 2015, there was an independent investigation by police and different organizations to go buy the supplements off GNC's shelf in Walmart and Target, and they looked at them to just say, is what's on the label in this thing? And it wasn't. They're finding like plant matter and all this and dirt and like either inert things or things that potentially could be harmful.
Plus the concentration, they could say it has this many international units, but it's not standardized, so it could be higher, lower, and you don't know.
Right. So that's why you have to use good supplement companies, third party tested all these things,
Right.
and they can show you results if you like.
What about Costco?
Yeah. Go do the test. Go read the label. Yep. So, but the good example there is the most expensive vitamin in the world is one that doesn't work, right? So I could go get 1,000 tabs at Costco for $4.99, but if it's not doing anything for me, that's more expensive than a $50 one that's actually slowing my brain degeneration. Okay.
But are those bad are they going to harm you or just not do anything?
Well, the cyanide could. The yellow 5, the sucralose. Sucralose is metabolized to dioxin, which is a poison they'll try and assassinate.
It should harm you more than help you.
Yeah. It's a load on the liver, and what those things are converted into, depending on the person and all that, can definitely potentially hurt you, and it's stealing your money. Next. Ooh, look. There you go. Where can we get them? So full disclosure, I get a few bucks if you order from here, okay? But the good ones are only sold through practitioners. Like this brand, both these brands should not be found on Amazon. You will be able to find bottles, but you don't know if they're real. So Biotics Research, this is a supplement company that's been around for 50 years. They're in Texas, and they actually have approval from the government as a pharmaceutical company level lab and everything, because they saw the writing on the wall. Like, remember during COVID they took NAC off of Amazon, and they took different things off of Amazon. The only ones they were going to allow to sell those things would be pharmaceutical companies if they got their way. Thankfully they didn't, but they were set up to be able to still provide healthy things for us because they were forward looking. But they are a supplement company, not a pharmaceutical company. And then Apex Energetics also is practitioner only, so I wouldn't order that stuff off Amazon because it's probably not made by them.
Dr. Bartemus, they have a website, they sell directly Biotics Research from their company.
Yeah, so, well, that might be new. So it hasn't, but if they do, these are the products you want. I mean, I like a few bucks, but if I don't get it, that's fine. As long as you're taking your stuff and preserving your brain. So bioticsresearch.com is their actual website. This website, it allows practitioners to distribute multiple practitioner-only brands at one place instead of me giving you, hey, go to bioticsresearch.com, go to apexenergetics.com, go to this.com. It's just one place. So, again, the study used 2,000 IU of D. Not going to move the needle if your D's 34. Okay? So I'm not going to give any specific levels because I don't know you guys, but if I've tested your levels, I can give you specific dosing recommendations. But per the research says the average adult needs at least 4,000 to 6,000 a day. Okay, so that's 2 to 3 times more than the study was giving. My experience in people with 34, you need more than that for a time. Okay, the omegas. There's research all over the place. We need at least 3 grams a day, which is 3,000 milligrams. Same thing. 3,000 milligrams, 3 grams. Same thing. Okay. The study used 1 gram. So again, if we took a therapeutic dose and got 3 times the impact, might that 3 months to 4 months have become 9 months to 12 months over a 3-year period?
What about weight? Because my husband's double my weight, literally. So wouldn't he need more than I would?
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he's not getting 3 grams now. So yeah, there are all those intricacies, which again I'm not going to try and teach people or diagnose people I don't know.
If you're not deficient in some of these things, like I'm not deficient in vitamin D. If I take a multivitamin,
What's your D level?
I don't remember, but I remember on my lab.
Oh, you need it. You don't remember
it's
it.
normal. But if I take a multivitamin and you don't have a deficiency, is that going to be too much?
Unlikely.
No?
Yeah. So, for example, say your D was good, right? So people with a 34D, I often get them up where we want. But there's a lot of intricacies with D, so there's a vitamin D receptor that has to be activated by D to raise your level, blah, blah, blah. But so it's trial and error initially. If you have a 34, we're dosing you up to try and get you to our goal level. Sometimes you hit that, sometimes you shoot way past it because your body wants it, it just has never got it, and we gave it to it. So there's been, the normal range was 30 to 100 on LabCorp. I've had a patient where we retested at 6 weeks and they were 200. Okay, was she vitamin D toxic? No. How do we know? If you're vitamin D toxic, your serum calcium goes lab high.
Because there's some vitamins, if you get too much, it's not good.
Yeah, like vitamin D, which is a fat-soluble vitamin.
Like some of the
Vitamin A, vitamin E. The B's,
well, because they're water soluble.
Yeah.
Some of them, if you have too high of it, some people take like too much of the vitamin.
yeah, the fat-soluble vitamins present toxicity potentially, A, D, E, K. But again, to do that is very hard.
Okay.
So 4,000 to 6,000, 3,000, and then the multi. And again, quality multis you want to take each meal. 6 of these is 1 dose per day. So I say do 2 with each meal. So 2-3 times a day. That way you're dripping the B's and the fat solubles and all the things it has for you over time. All right, we doing okay, or you guys want to leave?
What about food sources for omega-3?
Food sources for omega-3 is a good question. Wild-caught fish, grass-fed meats, chia seeds, flax seeds. The seeds need to be converted in our bodies, and it's not as efficient as the animal base. So the wild-caught fish, grass-fed meats would be better for most people.
You don't get enough unless you eat a lot.
Yeah, nobody eats enough unless there's like all I buy is grass-fed and wild-caught and non-GMO and all that. So the supplementation is an easy, relatively inexpensive way to just cover your bases. So those are the key, easy, simple ones. Multi, omegas, D, 30 minutes 3 times a week of exercise. Okay? And obviously going with a whole food, anti-inflammatory diet like Linda teaches all the time. Okay? These, now there's other papers looking at vitamins, are they longevity vitamins that are non-essential in terms of like B's and D and A and K, those things are essential. Omegas, if we don't have those, like we're not going to do well, health-wise. These are non-essential from that standpoint, but are they essential for long life? Okay, and we'll dive into these. So these, what I would say is, if you had to pick, start with the multi, the D, the omegas. The exercise, the clean diet, lower stress, good sleep. Okay, if you have more income and more interest, or in your specific case, you have something where one of these is good for that, then maybe you add one of these. We'll skip this, just for time. But real quick, triage theory is the body, you guys all prioritize things. You prioritize your health enough to be here right now over everything else you could have done, right? So the body triages or prioritizes things as well. So if we have deficiencies or chronic disease, the body's going to prioritize certain nutrients over others. That's what triage theory is. Cancer is the body prioritizing. Okay? Cancer is an intelligent adaptation by the body. Yeah. Okay, so cancer is the body chose for you to die later instead of today. Okay, so the example is if I'm a smoker and I develop lung cancer, that lung cancer was an adaptation by your lungs to say, hey, we're going to shift our physiology in a way to keep us alive now. And yeah, you might die of lung cancer in a few years, but we're buying you time to stop making this stupid choice. Okay? So that's happening on a cellular level. It happens with us. Hey, should I put money into this or into this? Should I put my time into this or into this? That's triage. So Bruce Ames, great guy to read if you like nutrition. He's been in it for a long, long time, and he published this study, Prolonging Healthy Aging, Longevity Vitamins and Proteins, and here he is talking about the triage. So triage theory, so basically proteins and enzymes are broken into two classes, survival proteins versus longevity proteins. All right? The triage theory says a modest deficiency of one of the nutrients triggers a built-in rationing mechanism that favors proteins needed for survival today. I'll give you lung cancer today so you don't die today instead. So that prioritize the survival proteins while sacrificing those needed to protect against future damage. So sacrificing longevity for survival today. That's triage. Impairment in function of the longevity proteins results in acceleration of the risk of diseases associated with aging. Okay? So again, if I choose to smoke, I can choose that, but I'm sacrificing literally future as we understand it. But the reason you're literally sacrificing that is because you're sacrificing your future health and the ability to have resilience. So nutrients required for the function of longevity proteins constitute a class of vitamins that Dr. Ames called longevity vitamins. I suggest that many such nutrients play a dual role for both survival and longevity. What might those be? Here's a different article. Crosstalk between vitamins A, B12, D, K, C, and E, and arterial stiffness. Heart disease is the number one killer. The stiffer your arteries, the higher the blood pressure, the higher the risk of cardiovascular disease. So this paper found that vitamins A, C, D, and E, the fat-soluble vitamins, improved endothelial function, which is the inside lining of your arteries, and that's what decides are you dilating or constricting. So those vitamins are crucial for healthy vessels. And then A, B12, C, D, K improve metabolic function, so blood sugar and all of that stuff. And it lists a whole bunch of other functions that these vitamins do. So vitamin supplementation may be an effective, individualized, and inexpensive de-stiffening therapy. Okay? So if we have high blood pressure, all they're going to say is, here's your lisinopril or your metoprolol, see you later. You say, doc, isn't there anything I can do nutritionally? And they say, no, nutrition has nothing to do with it. You should know never to go back to that person. Because the actual people with brains say, yes, we can almost for free de-stiffen vessels with nutrition. All right, so this is back to the Dr. Ames study and just showing you a couple of them. So choline. Remember we talked about brain degeneration, hippocampus, memory. So acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that the hippocampus uses to remember and do its job. Well, we need choline from the diet to make that. Okay? Only 11% of women achieve the recommended intake, and the average intakes for the population are half to 2/3 of the normal recommendation. So only 11% of women get enough, and then when we lump men and women together, only the whole population only gets half to 2/3 what they need. So choline is something we all could use more of. Taurine. Taurine is a non-essential amino acid. Comes from animal foods, but we can make it, but not enough of it. Okay? It's important in preventing numerous health problems. Heart disease, brain function, diabetes, mitochondrial diseases. Production of taurine is low in humans, and this leads to the suggestion that supplementation may be beneficial. Most taurine is acquired from the diet, mainly from fish and other seafood, seaweeds, eggs, and dark meat poultry. Taurine is particularly important for the mitochondria. mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. So they make our energy. Okay? And then phospholipids, the key, phospholipids are fats. Everyone here is wise enough to know and be beat over the head, decade over decade of eat eggs, don't eat eggs, eat bacon, don't eat bacon. You're clogging your sink, your arteries are your sink, and the fat's clogging your arteries. Okay? The brain's 60% fat. If you're avoiding fat, you're promoting degeneration. So we need the right fats, and phospholipids are healthy fats. And here's a list here looking at like saturated versus unsaturated and all of this. But don't avoid fats, okay? Healthy fats. Whew, that's a lot. I'm right here and it's hard to read. So carotenoids, off this page, carotenoids would be the big one. Those are the colors in the vegetables. So orange carotenoids in carrots, right, will become vitamin A. Different color carotenoids, purple in eggplant, green in spinach, red in red peppers. Okay, so eating the rainbow is a great way to get these nutrients here. Yes, you can supplement with them, but I'd rather you eat healthy fruits and veggies, because what they put in the supplements is what we know about right now. What's in the whole food is that stuff plus everything else nature wanted to be packaged together. So if you can get fruits and veggies that are have more nutrition than glyphosate in them, then get those, okay? And then one last one, PQQ, pyrroloquinoline quinone. That's a tongue twister. This helps with mitochondria and energy production. So again, as we get wiser, we tend to have less energy, and that's because our powerhouse mechanisms can have normal physiologic decline, okay? There's normal physiologic decline, but then if we have an unhealthy lifestyle, we accelerate that. So if we can clean up our lifestyle and then provide the building blocks for the powerhouses, we can give ourselves the best shot.
That's why it's that last one. What food is that in? That quinolone, whatever that is.
The PQQ?
Yeah.
It's made by soil bacteria. It's in plants. So basically plants is what you're going to have to eat to get that. So again, where can I get them? Here's some examples of good products that we listed. So the taurine, the PQQ, a couple different brands of those things. And so the benefit of using this link versus going to the different websites is I've created out little templates with this. So you could go here, and if you type in longevity vitamins, that template with all of these will come up, and you could order all of them, or you could say, I just want the taurine, and order the taurine out of it. The other one, the multi-fish oil vitamin D, search, what do I call that one? Biological aging. So search that, and that'll come up, and you can pick what you want there. So that's it. What questions, comments do we have?
So if you take supplements for things that are difficult to get through diet, like omega-3, vitamin D, vitamin B12, etc., and if you have a very healthy vitamin-rich diet, like Linda provides for me, is it necessary to take a multivitamin as well?
Yes, because today the soils are so depleted that if you, and this has been published quite a few times, if you took an organic apple today and compared it to the organic apple of 1960s, 1970s, you need to eat something ridiculous like 43 apples today to get the nutrition from the one 1970. So and a major reason for that is because we went from, World War II was a real flip in Rockefeller. So basically World War II, after World War II is the chemical revolution. So World War II, the men go off to fight, the women have to run the farms or go work and do all this. Women got used to working, war's over. A lot of them don't want to go back in the kitchen. They like working, second income, whatever. So we take the chemicals that were basically waste products from the war machine and say, okay, this toxin over here actually works as an herbicide or as a pesticide or as whatever. And so we moved from like the farming where they would do crop cycling and put nutrients back in the soil and all this, and they moved to just doing the same crop on the same land all the time and depleting the soils. and they used basically chemical fertilizers that only have nitrogen. I'm not a farmer, but there's 3 things in them that they use, and those are the 3 they put back. But there's a lot of other things that should be in the soil, like selenium and other trace minerals that were not put back. So when we grow food on those depleted soils, the selenium level in the food will be lower than it was. And you do that for 70 years, and now we have a population with low selenium. Okay, so it doesn't make the good food and the good diet unnecessary. We still need that, but it's not going to be enough, unfortunately, right now. If we can get everyone to shift the farming back to the right way, which I'm blanking on the name of the right way, but that would be beneficial.
So the anti-aging space in science is taking off like crazy. If you believe them, they're going to cure that in a period of time. But
heard that before.
But not that notwithstanding, the thing that I'm going to keep you reading the literature and its primary form as opposed to what people think about it. And the mitochondria, for going back to our high school and college days, are the little organelles in the cells that create ATP, which is our energy. And that's the energy for the cell, but it's your energy. It is the way you feel every day, all the energy that you have or you don't have. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, I've been following some of the NAD plus research and the phospholipids, and personally speaking, it's been phenomenal for me and also for my husband Bill. It has really just powerhoused our energy up beyond what I would have imagined.
Yeah.
So what do you think about those?
Yeah, and I anecdotally in my practice, I've noticed that it's more of a powerhouse for the older adults, right? Which again would suggest as we have the physiologic decline,
Yeah.
you're gonna notice symptoms better from the NAD than like I've taken it and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's age I think matters there a little bit. But absolutely, the basic science of it is the mitochondria. If you remember the picture of the cell, the mitochondria is the little green jelly bean in there. Okay, and that makes the ATP and the energy for us. Well, where the NAD plus is vitamin B3, it's a form of vitamin B3. So the B vitamins, very key for energy production. Iron, very key. Magnesium, coenzyme Q10, very key, which happens to be depleted by statin drugs. And they don't tell you that, but it's all over the labels and should be told as informed consent whenever they prescribe it. Because if statin drives CoQ10 deficiency, your energy goes down. The whole list of side effects is increased risk, like the muscle pain, the joint pain, etc., because it takes energy to heal and build new tissue, and you're depleting that. Okay, so sidebar, but CoQ10, iron, B vitamins, magnesium, oxygen is huge, of course. So phospholipids make up the inner and outer membrane of the mitochondria. So again, as we make cells, the fats we eat are what are used to make the cell membranes of all our cells. So if you don't eat enough fats or you eat poor fats, literally the future you is far less healthy. So trans fats, you've all heard of trans fats, right? And they've been outlawed. One reason for that is a half-life of a trans fat is like 9 months. So to go eat French fries at McDonald's today, that's going to be in your body for years. Okay? So you're going to use those nasty fats to make your cells, and then that cell membrane, if it's part of your mitochondria, is going to be less efficient. So the energy hit is going to be much longer than just the insulin resistance it drove during your meal.
So at the bottom line, would you say in your practice you're using them and might recommend them for individuals?
Yeah. So this right here, this is the phospholipids. Okay, and there's 5 essential phospholipids. This has all of them in it, and this one is a powder, but it's the best one I've been able to find in terms of dose and price and getting all 5 at therapeutic levels. And so this is like kind of advanced past today, but diseases like chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is like mold illness from water damaged buildings, chronic fatigue, long COVID. These are diseases that are damaging the mitochondria, and if we're not replacing or providing the right materials to rebuild those properly, you don't get better. You give these to those people in combination with a bunch of other stuff, but oftentimes very important and effective for them. And the NAD plus, a good brand, is called True Niagen, which is on here as well, and that's what Linda has used for years, and that's a good company that has a lot of research behind it. Next.
So what does that Bio-PC Pro taste like when you put it in water?
It does. So I don't care about taste. I'm just doing stuff to check it off, right? Like I need to do this. Here we go. I don't care. But this one actually is pretty benign. It's like I want to say almond, but
Doesn't even want to shake.
yeah, it's almost flavorless, you know. So if you bought some coconut milk and threw it in there, or you made a little smoothie and threw it in there, you wouldn't taste it. It's just might thicken it up a little bit. Other questions?
I know you guys have questions. This is your opportunity. I can't answer them.
Yeah.
Not related, but what do you think about magnesium at night to help sleep?
Yeah, she said, what do I think about magnesium at night to help sleep? Can be very helpful for a lot of people. There's different forms of magnesium. So for sleep, the magnesium glycinate happens to be very helpful, or magnesium threonate. Those two can be very helpful for sleep. Yeah.
So what magnesium combination, I guess it's different for everybody.
For sleep?
No, just to stay healthy in general.
I mean, you just need magnesium. Like magnesium is part of 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. So, like if she takes magnesium glycinate to sleep, that breaks up into magnesium and glycine. And the reason that helps her sleep more is because glycine is a GABA agonist. GABA is our natural Xanax, our natural anti-anxiety neurotransmitter, helps you motor down. So if we take the magnesium, that's one way to help us motor down, but then the glycine hits the GABA receptors and helps us motor down more than if you took like magnesium malate, which is more for like muscle pain and soreness and things like
Or
that.
magnesium citrate.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Citrate, succinate, threonate, oxide. Yeah, citrate for constipation.
What was it,
Glycinate, yep.
How many milligrams?
Glycinate.
How many milligrams of the magnesium glycinate would you recommend? Because it comes in different.
Yeah. So
mgs.
she asked what dose for the sleep. 300 to 500 milligrams probably. Magnesium, are we worried about toxicity? No, magnesium has a laxative effect if you take too much. So if you,
Something that about should be aware of.
yeah, so if you took the 500 to go to sleep and you had diarrhea, that would be, hey, maybe back off to like 200 and build up by 100 to find what works for you. If 500 causes it, you could probably do 250 twice, right? So you might just need to split that 500 up into 250 at lunch, 250 at dinner.
Because I read that you shouldn't take more than 320 milligrams.
That's not accurate.
So you say you have patients.
Yeah.
Where did they come from? I mean, this is an immense amount of information for somebody like me.
Yeah, they come from Google and YouTube and anyone who's looking for help. They're all over the place.
For health in general.
For chronic disease. Yeah, health and chronic disease issues, yeah.
So for assistance in selecting supplements.
For assistance in optimizing their health. Yeah. So we would do, so she asked where do my patients come from? My patients are chronic disease patients. My book here is on autoimmune disease. A lot of what I see is autoimmunity, but it's people who are fed up with the conventional healthcare system. They've seen 12 doctors. They're being told there's nothing wrong with them, or they're just getting more meds and getting worse. Okay. Functional medicine is, so conventional medicine is MIC medicine. You have a label. Everyone with that label gets the same treatment. How's that working for us? Okay. Functional medicine is, she's Linda, and Linda's different than Bill. So if Linda and Bill both came to me with type 2 diabetes, they don't both get the same treatment because they both have different puzzles impacting that diabetes. And maybe Bill has raging arthritis with his, and Linda has neurodegeneration with his. So that's hers. So that's two different puzzles. So functional medicine, we use lab testing to look under your hood specifically and say, here are the sticks and the spokes that we can both be accountable to. This is what we're trying to change. Here's the natural strategies: nutrition, physical activity, stress reduction, sleep hygiene, toxin avoidance, supplementation, whatever, that matter in your case to help us change these things. Let's do this for a time period and retest and objectively show, hey, you're changing. And hopefully at the same time you're saying, my anxiety is 0 to 100% better, my sleep 0 to 100% better, my pain, my energy, my gut, whatever it is, right? So the goal is to ultimately say, Linda, high five, great job, spread your wings. Discipline's the only magic bullet. We figured out what works for you. Keep doing that now. It's a journey, not a destination. So you're not done, but we shouldn't have to be as tight anymore because we figured out what works. So you keep doing it, and then because we got those results, you love me, and maybe we touch base every 6 months or so. Yeah.
Will you send me the PowerPoint so if people
Yep.
are interested, they
Yep.
can ask me via email, give me a day or so. And I don't know if you want to add one slide about where they could get them, where they can look. I guess all the information is there. But
Yeah. Question?
I just wondered if you had an opinion on good and bad supplements, standard process supplements. Just curious.
My opinion is I don't like standard process.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's enough. Just I don't like them. Well, because there's claims to be a healthy company, but they have wheat and gluten in their products, and it's like that's one of the most commonly offensive, pro-inflammatory things for all humanity, and you have that in certain products, and it's like why? And their explanation is not convincing, so that's why.
Who is this?
Standard process.
My chiropractor put me on those.
Yeah, a lot of chiropractors use it, but
What about life extension? Good.
life extension is decent. Yeah.
You know the good ones, you just don't know all the bad ones. You know the good labs, but there's great many others.
Yeah. And
Let me ask you a question. Do you have something comparable to the standard process?
Way better.
Bone health supplements? Is that
Way better.
No, this is specific to bone health. It's got.
There's lots of there's lots of companies with good stuff, but the multivitamin itself has DK, all the things that they're breaking out and calling a bone health supplement. It's like those are required nutrients whether you're worried about bone or
It's
not.
supposed to help get calcium into your bones.
Postmenopausally, osteopenia and osteoporosis, postmenopausally is inflammation. It's not calcium lack. So you have to figure out why and where you're inflamed and deal with that. And I have a whole video on that on YouTube walking you through. But it's inflammation.
Yeah, the doctor told me I should look at Moringa. You know, and it's a very interesting when you read it, all the things about Moringa and the tree and leaves and everything, just simple bark, everything is supposed to be healthy, but it didn't seem where there were conclusive studies that were maybe that looked positive and stuff.
I'm not aware of any. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tree, yeah, you can grow it.
It's not very
What else? Any other questions? Great questions, by the way. And just so you know, my bias is test, don't guess, right? So knowing your vitamin D helps us say what level should you take, right? You can test your omega-3 and omega-6s. So knowing that helps us say, well, how should we dose you versus 3,000 general one, right? So testing helps, and the difference again for you, ma'am, where conventional medicine, if you go ask your doctor for vitamin D, you have to fight them to get them to run vitamin D for you. Or to get them to run omega-3, they probably won't because there's not a diagnosis code that they're going to point to be able to get paid for it. So functional medicine, usually is cash out of pocket because we're actually doing what you need, not being dictated by what insurance companies will allow.
So a vitamin D test is different from the lab report you get with vitamin D on it?
No. If they run a vitamin D, that's vitamin D.
Right.
But getting them to do it is often hard. Like if you went in and said, run my essential fatty acid profile, their head will explode.
Do you test for hormones too?
Yeah, we can. I don't do anything the same to everybody. It's in your case, if that matters, yes, we can. We can do anything, but what should we do is guided by history, medical record review, all that. Yep.
Do you have a phone number that if we wanted to come see you?
I use
how would we get in touch with you?
Morse code.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. So it's on my website is functionalmedicinecharlotte.com, or if you want, I can give you the phone number, or 704-271-2954.
Or ask me.
Yeah, and so that's 271-2954. And I also offer a complimentary 15-minute phone consult to talk about your case more specifically. Like I hear, what are your concerns, what are you looking for, and then is that something we could work together on, and if so, here's my spiel, and then you can decide, do you want to do it or not.
I called another functional medicine doctor, and I can tell you the name, and basically they told me you have to go in, have all the testing done, pay for it, then we'll sit down and do a consultation with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, can't I just come in and talk to you first to see, what kind of test I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
They basically want you to just come in
Yeah.
first, have everything done, and then they'll figure out.
There's different business models. I don't like that one because that suggests to me they're doing the same testing to everybody and then just seeing what sticks to the wall.
And they were talking about some kind of urine,
Yeah.
dry urine testing or something?
Yeah, you can do that for hormones. Yeah, you can do that for hormones. But I don't, the way I do it is I offer that consult call for free, whatever. But then if you decide to move forward, we're getting your history birth to now, we're requesting the last 7 years of your medical records. I'm going through all of that first before we sit down, and then I sit down with you and say, here's where they've given you smiley faces, where hidden in plain sight, here's an issue, right? And that stuff dictates, here's the tests I recommend we run on you. And then if you choose to run them, we go from there.